Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chatter Podcast. I'm John Bernstrom, Public Information Officer for the City of Grand Forks. This is episode number 46, and when we hired this gentleman, I'm like, hey, we're going to get you on the podcast, and it's been almost a year now. So we welcome Grand Forks Police Chief Jason Freedman. Chief, thank you, and you know what my reminder was? Is I had a... Chuck Marcotte on, their new fire chief, and I'm like, crap, I haven't had our police chief on. So sorry about that.
Well, no, it's good to make sure that I make it that first year before you invest in the podcast. So here I am. It's all good.
Well, I was going through my notes, and it was almost a year ago in a couple of weeks where I wrote the news release where you and I talked on the cell phone, and I'm like, I just wrote a quote for you. Welcome to Grand Forks.
Yeah, it's just been about a year since the process, and been a good year.
So along those lines, a little bit of history on you. Before Grand Forks, you've been in law enforcement for how long now? Like in total?
Yeah, so I started in 1997. So I guess if you do the math, it's probably about 29 years now.
Sure.
I'm entering my 30th year, and most of that with the City of Madison, Wisconsin Police Department, but started in late January here.
And then... With that work within law enforcement, and you saw the chief opening here, frankly, when you looked at it, part of that is Grand Forks, North Dakota. What led you? The conversations in your house is just like, all right, I'm going to pursue this.
Yeah. So in the summer of 2020, some things happened, right?
Oh yeah, a little bit.
And I decided at that point, I kind of arced the end of my career with Madison, and I knew then I was going to be retiring in the fall of 2024. So was sticking to that plan. About a year and a half before then, I realized I need to find something else to do. I would not do well in retirement. So thought about a chief's position, explored that for a while, had a number of different places I looked at. I applied for, and it just didn't work out.
Right.
And I had reached kind of a crossroads in I think September last year, and was talking to my wife. It's like, well, maybe a chief's job isn't for me.
Okay.
A couple weeks later, the Grand Forks job popped up on my feed, and I looked at it, and I talked to my wife, and she's like, go for it. And so started to do some research. Knew this was going to be a great place to be a cop, that community was supportive, mayor, the city was supportive. We had been through North Dakota before. We enjoyed our time here. We were looking for a move anyway, someplace to kind of have an adventure together. And just the more research I did, and as I was going through the process, it seemed like a better and better fit. That this was a great opportunity for me, and one that, I believe it happened for a reason. Just the timing and everything was perfect.
It's funny how stuff like that, just in life in general, right? It's like I met my wife when I wasn't necessarily looking for a relationship, right? You find a job when you're not really looking for. You had kind of, well, maybe I'm going to be a chief, maybe I'm not. You kind of reserve yourself, and then this opportunity comes up. You mentioned you come from Madison. We talked for people that don't know, when you were interviewing. I took you on a tour of the city.
It was great,
and we had a conversation of similarities between the communities a little bit. College town, upper Midwest.
Yep.
Hockey's a big deal in this town. Sports in general are a big deal. Can you talk a little bit about it? It's not one for one, but just some of the things you dealt with in your career in Madison, Wisconsin, that have now translated here in Grand Forks.
Yeah, so some of it I predicted, and some of it I wouldn't have in terms of the similarities. But no, Grand Forks is about a fifth the size of Madison.
Right.
And a lot of things scale very similarly. So our department's about the fifth the size of Madison.
Okay.
We have, like you said, we have a major university here. It's smaller. It's about a third the size of Madison.
UW is huge.
Yeah, it is huge. Madison had a very robust hospital and healthcare system.
We do as well.
Check that off. Both cities have a vibrant downtown. That's a lot has been put into, and shops and restaurants and bars. So there was a lot that felt very familiar from the get-go. A lot of outdoor recreating here, a lot of outdoor recreating in Madison. Maybe a little more wind here. In terms of the issues, both cities are fortunately relatively low crime, especially violent crime.
Right.
So that, also felt somewhat normal for me. I think the things that were the same that surprised me a little bit were some of the challenges with homelessness, and I don't know why it surprised me. Every community has some degree
Sure.
of that,
Yeah.
but I think maybe the timing and a number of different things that have happened over the last several years, some of which are local, some of which are national, really brought that issue to the fore. And that was something I had spent several years focusing on in Madison, and I found myself focusing on it here.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other issues are very similar. Concerns about traffic and traffic safety. We have a great school district here. We are fortunate. I'm very fortunate that we have a robust relationship and officers in the schools here. We lost that in Madison.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My kids love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a great program, but a lot of it, a lot of the issues are the same. It's just maybe a little less or a little a slightly different
Sure.
flavor, but
Scale of the size of cities,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yep.
It's interesting you bring up homelessness, and I put that on my list here. And it's not and it's not so much. Part of it is you've presented to council a couple of times,
Right.
and I think you do a really good job. There's not one silver bullet to this thing. There's not like this is happening, which is resulting in this, or right? And we're not the only city dealing with this. I think you do a really good job. Just like there's multiple things involved here. Just talk about that, and as law enforcement, your approach. Sometimes it's nobody's breaking any law, right?
Right.
It's just right. You've got nowhere to go.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
that's from a law enforcement standpoint, from your, I guess, philosophy approaching this. Can you just talk about how Grand Forks PD is handled? Now, weather's going to be a natural
Yep.
thing that's
Bit
going
of
to
a
change.
reset.
It's
Yep.
going to change things, but how you guys approach it.
Yeah, so I mean, first I'll just emphasize that complex problems almost never come with simple solutions.
Sure.
So, right?
Exactly.
And it's I also like to think that problems that aren't created by law enforcement are difficult for law enforcement to solve on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my approaches, and it's certainly something just building on our department and our department philosophy here, is we have a role in dealing with any issue.
Right.
And maybe we're one of the few agencies that does. Almost anything, it somehow involves the police, for good or for bad. But when we're talking about homelessness issues, it creates a variety of things. It creates those circumstances, like you said, that aren't criminal but are uncomfortable, or that make people upset, understandably. There's criminal behavior. There's medical issues. There's damage and trying to maintain order, and just there's a whole variety of things. And so what our approach is we make sure that we're doing our job in terms of upholding the law, being present, but part of our job is we have to work with others who are involved in this problem, and because they're going to be able to do things we can't, and they're going to oftentimes have a better solution. So we have somebody who commits a crime. Yep, they need to be arrested. They need to go to jail if that's appropriate, but they're going to get out of jail in a day or two.
Right.
And then what? And if it's just they're going to come back and just repeat that cycle of behavior,
continue to commit that petty crime.
No one wins. And
Right.
so if we can work effectively, whether it's with the Mission or the Nest or Spectra or Ultra or any of our partners in that whole
mental health, substance abuse,
Absolutely.
all of the above.
Yep. And so if we really want to try to address some of the root causes, and even then there's more than one, right? We need to work, because in the long run, that'll be better for the person. It'll be better for the community. It'll be better for my officers because they're not playing whack-a-mole. But, those sorts of approaches tend to take a lot of time. It takes some patience, and there are going to be situations where it doesn't work, and there are going to be times where it feels like it's not working, even when there is some progress being made. But that's, again, that's my general approach to things is we do our part, but we look for those to work with who can do their parts. And if we all do that together, chances are we're going to get a better outcome.
I thought it was also interesting where you talk about there's this cycle, like potential, arrest, go to jail, come out, do it again, and you go in those circles.
Yep.
And I believe you presented to council that you did a call audit, and it was just what a handful of individuals had generated over 1,000
Yep.
phone calls to the police department, various things, right? At a point from an officer standpoint, or is it, we gotta go take care of Larry again?
It's definitely frustrating for officers. It can create burnout. And the officers are human beings too. And when they're dealing with somebody for the 37th time,
Right.
and nothing is changing, it's hard to stay as focused as we would want. And that's ultimately when we have a systems issue like that. That's not the fault of the officer. That is a lack of either creativity, imagination, partnership, or follow through, whether it's at my level in the police department or with our other community partners. And so, the good news is that group, while they're extremely high volume, there aren't a lot of them, and
Right.
that creates some opportunities to try to be a little more focused, at least for some.
Yeah, that's really good. I wanted to have you talk about that. You gave your city council speech there, and I thought you did a really good job, and I thought that was a good way to approach that. Just from the standpoint is everyone has an idea of what the answer is, but all of them are right and all of them are a little bit wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
well said.
Yeah. Another thing tough thing in law enforcement, not just here, I think in general, staffing.
Absolutely.
Right. Hard in the world you're in. We just talk about some of the things and frustrations and stress and everything, having people wanting to become
Yep.
police officers.
Yep.
So this is a two-part question. First thing for you, what made you want to be a police officer?
Oh boy, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So I, as you will probably find with me, there are no short answers, John. So forgive
That's
me
why you're on the
that.
podcast.
Right. So, I went to school, loved college, loved the idea of college, did very well, and I was going to become an academic. I was going to go and be a PhD in political science. But as I wrapped up college, I realized I wanted to kind of maybe take a pause from that and kind of do something either more exciting, more physical, and so I started thinking about that. I ended up going to officer candidate school for the Marine Corps, which was very physical and was exciting, but it ended up not being a great fit for me. At least it didn't feel that way at the time. But that sort of lit a fire in me that I wanted to be part of something bigger. I wanted to try to get involved in something more service, service to country. So I came back from OCS and I ended up getting a job. I wasn't looking for this kind of job. I was looking for a job, but I ended up getting a job in our low-income housing unit for the city of Madison. And there
Okay.
I started to meet folks who, as a middle-class kid growing up, in a nice community, I had never really met before. Folks who had the mental illness, the AODA, folks who had made a lot of bad choices and were destitute. And through there, I started to meet with some folks from the police department, and a lieutenant at the police department, he recommended that I put in. And so I put in while I was looking at, while I had applied to Ohio State for a PhD program. And it was May of 1997. And within the few days, I got a call from the police department offering me a job, and I got notified by Ohio State offering me a PhD track.
Oh, decision time.
Decision time.
Yep.
So I can tell you my parents wanted me to go to Ohio State. So I called my mentor at Ohio State. They had assigned me one, and I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, take the police job. Like,
Oh, interesting.
PhDs in political science. If you're the 1/10 of 1%, you'll be able to make a career out of it. Otherwise, there's not a lot of.
It's a nice piece of paper.
Right. I mean, you're going to go into government work anyway. So, and again, I love the idea of staying in my community, of doing that service. As much as I like the book learning stuff, I was young, and so I got into policing then, and I never regretted going that route versus the academia. So
It's interesting because you hear a lot of law enforcement come from a military, right? It makes sense. There's that service, there's that the greater good and all that stuff. But it is interesting with your academic background how much that translates into law enforcement. You don't necessarily hear that path a lot, but there is a crossover, right? Don't get me wrong, your job is political.
well, and it helps. It helps to at least be aware of sort of history. And I credit my liberal arts education with a lot of it fills in a lot of gaps in a lot of areas. Like, it makes me think about things maybe a little differently. And being a cop in Madison for so long, where it was you had to be extremely mindful of all of the different interests and challenges of policing in a very progressive city.
Sure.
Lots of great opportunities, but also, like I said, and I would tell my folks this all the time when I was still there, a lot of mines and mines in the minefield. And so I think that really prepared me well to come to a place like Grand Forks, where it's a much more supportive city, but the issues are still there.
Still the same issues.
And you still need to work with others. But here frankly, it feels more collaborative. It feels like there's more mutual respect, and there's a greater tolerance for, differences of opinion or differences of outcome. So, but yeah, definitely not a lot of folks I know came from started in different places to get into law enforcement. And that's one of the great things about the career, is that we take all kinds, and that's a type of diversity that makes us very strong when we have different backgrounds and educations and points of view. It adds to our value.
Yeah, it's interesting where you talk about, I think Grand Forks has something, and it's like we're a generation away from it now, but we had the flood of '97, right? And there was that, I'm going to call it was stressful. It was a line in the sand, but it was this galvanizing. We all have the same problem, and we're all working on it together. And I see your pain, and you see my pain, and we're working on this. And then you go, right, and it kind of lines people. You talk about resets, right?
Yep.
We kind of have those resets every winter, depending on the winter. When I'm out shoveling my driveway, it's at a very smaller extent, but I'm shoveling my driveway. My neighbor's shoveling his driveway. We're fighting the same battle, buddy. You know what? And guess what? I'm going to help you, and you help me, and all of a sudden, it's a community thing. There's something to that. I found it interesting. This was you talk about political science, and I almost minored in sociology in college, and just how people work. Early on in COVID, everyone's pulling together, support the healthcare, support the teachers, waving at the garbage man, because you know what, you're helping me, and everyone's working together. And it got farther, and then that galvanizing, and it almost started breaking up. And it was interesting, as there's this evolution of society in a matter of weeks, as opposed to over months or over years that you generally see. But I don't know, maybe I'm at an age where I look at stuff like that and I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting?
It is interesting how we react to different events, and some of those events pull us together, and some of them pull us apart. Right?
They do, and you don't know. It could be the same event several years later that's going to rip you apart when it pulled you together back here. It's
people are complex.
It is. It's a case study. It's an interesting one. Okay, so with that, how you got into law enforcement as a chief or as at a supervisor, you came as you were a captain in Madison.
Right.
Getting people to want to become police officers, hiring, staffing. You talked about it took you, as you were talking to a gentleman, just say, oh, you should put in, right? Or talking to an officer and stuff like that. Is that maybe one of the single biggest challenges of all the things you deal with on a day-to-day basis, to make sure we've got a staff and a good staff within the police department?
Yes, 100%. And I can only say I only have a direct experience in 2 police agencies, but I have indirect experience in a lot. And this is a almost a universal problem with law enforcement in the United States. Things have changed a lot. I started policing before September 11th, but we had September 11th happen. That was one of those galvanizing events.
Yep, we're all pulling in the same direction.
And we had a flood of recruits. We had things that happened in the national space, some good, some bad. but particularly what happened in 2020 with COVID and the riots, that turned a lot of people off from the profession, and I can't blame them.
Right.
In fact, even though we have fewer candidates, I often think we have those candidates their commitment and their dedication must be really high. If even in light of everything that's happened over the last few years, they're still willing to serve.
Yeah.
But the fact is, if you have 30 applicants versus 300, it's going to be really hard to maintain enough qualified applicants over time. And
even though the top may be the top,
Yep.
right, on both lists. But it's, right.
But and then just keeping people. And so those are related, although the challenges aren't identical. But we as a staff internally have identified that this is our number one objective in 2026 and beyond, is how do we start to improve that? And there's a lot of ways to try. It's hard to know what the right formula is because every community is different, and the demographics and the other things that are going on in the country. But I think we start from a great base here in that this is a great community to live in. It's a great community to be a cop in, and I believe we are a department that offers so much for new officers or the officers who are here. I think it's a great department to be a part of, and so part of it is trying to message that as well as we can. But it's definitely a challenge, and it's one that I don't see going away.
Well, and it's interesting since you said it's not limited to just here. It's everywhere. So if you're somebody who wants to be in law enforcement, you have a job in Grand Forks, but you know what? I'm from Bismarck, and there's a job opening in Bismarck because they're doing the same thing. You may have done nothing wrong, right? They just have a chance to go home,
right?
Or it's they go their wife.
That would never happen.
That would never happen, right? But those are just the challenges,
right.
Since it's not an isolated to Grand Forks thing or isolated to the Upper Midwest thing. Those are, you lose people that way too.
Absolutely, and while we can offer a lot of opportunities here, and again, you have kids, great school system. You like fishing, great hunting, all that stuff. But yeah, if your home network's in another state, or if you can go across the river and have, significantly higher salary or benefits, those are hard. That's a hard river to kind of swim upstream on. So, we have to look at a lot of different things and, emphasize those things that we can control and highlight, which again, I think this community is great. And then identify those things that, hey, here are some ways we're not competitive or as competitive, and we need to work on that, because while, getting good people is important, holding on to them
is just as important.
Just as important. Because then it just starts a cycle. And training a new cop, for those who don't know, from start to finish, from the beginning of the hiring process to when that officer is ready to go solo, can be over a year.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot of money. We're paying a salary, the equipment, the
you're
training.
You're invested in them.
Yeah, and so when they stay, if they stay for about 5 years, we kind of break even. But if we have somebody who starts and after a year or 2 or 3 they leave, then not only are we short, but now we're
starting over again,
and we've lost a bunch of that investment. So we
no, it's an interesting way to look at it. Interesting way to look at it. So one last Grand Forks Police Department thing here. Conversation on Monday at the City Council meeting. I found this interesting. Vehicles going home with officers versus not.
Yep.
Explain that to me. The philosophies. I believe County Sheriff has their vehicles go home, but their policing is different. They're out rural. For how it works for you guys at Grand Forks PD is cars parked at the police department, officer comes to work, hops in said vehicle, does their job, parks the car, gets in their car, goes home. Is it a proposal, an idea? Just the idea of officers being able to take vehicles home. Talk about the two philosophies. I found this interesting.
Yeah, so I won't speak for the mayor, but he did speak at council, and the mayor is intrigued by the idea. He and I have talked about it. There are a whole bunch of advantages with take-home cars. Now, let me start with what the disadvantage is. Like everything else, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive on the front end. However, take-home cars provide both economic and recruitment, retention, and public safety advantages. So let me start with public safety advantages. So we have an officer who now takes their squad car to and from home. They park it at home. Maybe it's visible, but it's more apparent there's a police officer in the neighborhood. That tends to make people feel a little better, right?
Yep.
Or they know who to go to. But at least as importantly, if that officer is driving into work and something major happens during that 5 or 10 minute drive, they can go right to it. And likewise coming back from home. And it also saves that officer. I mean, cops have a lot of gear. Every year, more and more gear. That officer kits that squad car out how they want it. That saves probably 10 to 15 minutes every day of schlepping gear up in and out, in and out, in and out. So we have that advantage. We have the recruitment retention advantage because I don't have to put miles on my personal car. I am going to save some time because I don't have to show up at work 20 minutes early
to do all that schlepping.
Do all that stuff, right?
Yep.
So I get that little more time at home. And there, and some people love noting that, hey, I'm a cop, I'm here. I mean, we're proud of our profession. And then financially, while in the short term, take-home cars are really expensive.
Because you have to buy more vehicles.
We have to buy more vehicles, right? In the long term, there's a lot of studies, and Council Vice President Weigel mentioned one of them, but we've done our own, and obviously each climate's a little different, but we've seen anywhere from most pool cars for us after 3 years are pretty well shot.
Sure.
We think we're going to get between 6 and 8 years if we go to individual issue because officers take better care of equipment that is their own.
I was going to say it's an ownership thing.
Right. It's just like renting versus owning.
Yep.
A lot of renters are great. My parents rented for years. Great. But all things being equal, if you own something, and in this way, they kind of feel that sense of ownership. And it's the same person driving it all the time. It's less wear and tear, and you get that financial benefit. So, I think if we're able to implement this, it's going to be over the course of several years.
Right. This is not a snap your finger. You're not buying that many vehicles that quick.
No, and I'm not interested in if Officer Smith doesn't want to take home, maybe because they live in an apartment and there's not a spot.
Sure.
Or if Officer Jones lives in 40 miles away, well, I'm not going to force Officer Smith to take a car, and I'm not going to give Officer Jones a car because
he lives that far away.
Right. So I would never see full implementation, but definitely even a significant implementation will take a number of years.
Right. No, I thought that was interesting. I never really thought about it, but yeah, even from a standpoint in law enforcement, this happens every once in a while. You get callbacks, right? There's something big going on.
Yep.
Everyone got to come in or who can come in. At that point, you're deploying from your house as opposed to back to the station, which is downtown.
Yep.
And then to wherever the situation is. Wherever the situation is. No.
And even something as simple as going to court on a day off. Well, now I don't need to take the car, so my wife can have the car, or I don't need to I don't need to worry about a parking meter because I'm in a marked squad car. It does add a lot of value for a lot of officers.
Yeah, no, interesting. All right, you've been in Grand Forks for what, 11 months, 10 months? Here we go. All right, some Grand Forks trivia for you.
Oh, boy.
All right, now this is really high level. Do you know when, as a city, we were incorporated?
1881.
That boy. There we go. UND. When did UND start?
Boy, were they a land grant university? Maybe not. I'm just gonna wing it. 1932.
1883.
Ooh.
At about the same time.
Okay.
Interesting little quip. Do you know how? So UND came to Grant at the time. The state of North Dakota is trying to get their poop in a group because I think the state was founded in 1879. 18. Anyway, around the same time.
Yep.
All right. We want universities. Those are good things. But at the time, they weren't moneymakers. And
it was the jail and the university,
and it was Bismarck goes, we'll take the state prison because that's a revenue generator. College, you go over there in Grand Forks, and that's how UND landed in Grand Forks. I find that, and you look at the world now, and you're like, that was a conscious decision.
Yeah, we've been laughing all the way to the bank ever since.
Exactly. Right? So this was interesting. Grand Forks was in a roundabout way kind of founded by mistake. So you can hop in the Red River here, and you can go all the way to England in theory, right? You can take water all the way. You get up to the Hudson, Lake Winnipeg, and the Hudson Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, and there you go. That's why Winnipeg is such a melting pot, because it's a trading post in this central North America. But it was fur traders that in the winter their paddle boat froze in the river. And that statue outside of the courthouse, Alexander Griggs, he was the captain of that boat.
Oh, okay.
And he was the founder of Grand Forks, because his boat froze in the river. And he's like, all right, we got to winter it out here. Right, this is where we're going to go. Hey, you know what? This is at a fork in a river. It's kind of this natural point that I could set up a post here, right, and make this a thing. And then all of a sudden, Grand Forks became Grand Forks.
Nice.
Yeah,
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking a little bit before we started. Halloween went all right at your house?
Yeah, it was fun. We were expecting more than what we got, but we got more than we've had in our old state. My wife dressed up. I chose not to, but yeah, it was a fun night. It was a good experience, and it was great. It's great to see so many kids out and doing kind of the stuff. It's like what I grew up with, just like going door to door and having a great time.
I think Grand Forks is one of those stereotypical Midwestern, what Halloween looks like in movies. The kids just walking up and down the street, the parents, pulling a wagon, maybe a stroller, and everyone's having fun.
And the houses that went all in on the decorations and like really impressive setups. Like, yeah, wow.
Yeah, my kids are teenagers, and we do it at Halloween. We didn't do it this year because we're getting busy, but we still do it every year at Christmas. All right, hot chocolate in the car. We're gonna drive around and look at Christmas. Grand Forks is one of those towns too that you're just like, all right, let's go see what the lights are like.
Yeah, we walked not too long ago. We walked at Lincoln Park in the morning and saw them. They're already setting that up.
Setting up.
Like, wow, that's something we were used to back where we're from, and looking forward to seeing it. Yeah, that'll be definitely.
It should be fun. So anyway, with Halloween,
Yep.
Here's some. Do you have a favorite candy? I'm a chocolate guy.
I am a chocolate guy. I like dark chocolate a lot, but if it's got chocolate on it, probably.
I'm a chocolate guy. So Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yep.
Actually named after a guy. Henry Reese. He made candy, named him after his kids and everything. And then this one he named after himself, and this was the one that was the
big seller.
The game changer. The game changer. I thought this was pretty good. Cotton candy, invented by a dentist. Now that sounds like
job security.
Job security.
Yeah.
Right. My kid, there's an orthodontist in town here. For those listening, you probably know who it is. My kid's like trick or treating in his neighborhood. Full-size candy bars. But to get the full-size candy bar, you had to take the toothbrush too.
I've heard, I won't name him, but one of my team may also give out full-size candy bars, but they require a certain number of push-ups for that.
So two baskets.
Yeah.
There you go. Our house is, if you dress up, you get candy. I don't care how old you are. If you don't dress up, all right, I may look you up and down a little bit, but if you put on a costume and you're 25, hey, you put forth an effort. Good job.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
As long as you're consistent.
Yep. I found this one interesting. Snickers.
Okay. I also like Snickers.
Snickers, right? It's named after a horse. So Snickers is so if you go back into the candy history, it's the Mars family.
Mars Company. Yeah.
The Mars Company. So is it Franklin Mars, the patriarch of Mars, right? Had a favorite horse named Snickers, and named this candy bar after his horse.
And long after everyone else is forgotten, people remember.
It's still having Snickers, named after a horse. Named after a horse. Well, Chief, thank you very much. I promise maybe not to wait, make a promise with you, and then say I'll let you get your feet on the ground. And I waited 11 months.
Oh, I was pretty well grounded. That wasn't untrue.
Yeah, I got you within a year. And good luck to everything you got going on. We're getting into winter. You were here last year. That was not a winter last year.
I've been told that was pretty mild.
That was pretty mild.
Yeah.
Good for you guys, but we're probably due. And all that stuff. But good luck in everything you do and moving forward. I appreciate that, Chief.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, John.
All right. Chief Jason Freedman joining us here in the City Chatter Podcast. You want to catch this episode or any other previous episode of the City Chatter Podcast, go to grandforksgov.com/podcast. Thanks for watching.